Hello everybody, how are you doing? This is Maro Doctor here with another review. Today I'm going to be testing Webroot. However, this will be like no other test I've ever conducted before. Rather than just do my normal malware link and malware sample portion during this test, as most people who test Webroot conduct their test, I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently. If you did not already know, Webroot has been shown in other tests, including my own in the past, to not have a exceptionally high detection rate. However, they rely on a rollback feature in order to remedy malware infections that make it past Webroot and make it onto the system. And Webroot will roll back all changes made by the file once it is determined to be malicious. Last time I made a test of Webroot for YouTube, I was back in 2012. I've been contemplating making another Webroot review for the last couple of years. However, I definitely wanted to take the rollback feature into consideration, and I really wasn't sure how I wanted to approach making a proper review for Webroot, because I think they make a very valid point. Because if they rely heavily on rolling back infections once they make it onto the system, why should I be testing the weak point of Webroot when it could still offer really good protection in that regard? So that is basically the purpose of this review today. I'm not even going to go really into any settings into Webroot other than under heuristics, Webroot infrared is enabled by default. And basically, they describe it as next generation multi-layer protection engine capable of proactively blocking zero-day and advanced persistent threats by leveraging the latest analytic engines within the Webroot intelligence network. I couldn't find anything that directly talked about the rollback feature within Webroot settings. However, this goes along with the theme of their zero-day protection and how they're using multiple layers of protection to protect against zero-day threats. So basically, in a nutshell, Webroot isolates programs that it is unsure if they are malware or not, and it will allow the program to run on the system to appear as though it is being run unrestricted, and Webroot let it through, when in actuality, Webroot has recorded the state of the system before the malware ever infected it, and once Webroot receives notice from the cloud or from an updated virus definition that that threat is determined to be malicious, it will automatically remove and roll back the system to whatever changes that were made by that piece of malware. So it's a very interesting and unique part about Webroot that sets it apart from most antiviruses that I test. So Webroot is basically some sort of mix between a sandbox and traditional definition-based antivirus. Like I said before, I'm not going to be running any links or known malware to Webroot's database because I scanned the packet malware on the desktop before I began this review, and I removed all of the files that Webroot already knows are malicious. So I'll scan this pack one more time. We can see it does not find any threats in this pack. However, all of these samples are malware. So before I run any of these samples, I'm going to open up Kill Switch. Again, I have never seen Webroot tested like this before, but I'm very curious to see how it performs. Just one more check. Everything looks good. Real-time protection is on. The web shield and firewall are all on. Just for some reason that it has a definition for any of these malware samples. All right, so let's begin. Let's run the next sample here. All right, Webroot SecureAnywhere. It says this file is trying to connect to the internet and is not trusted. And its recommendation is block this event if you are unfamiliar with this file. I will block it just for the sake of doing what Webroot tells me to do as acting as an average user. All right, Webroot found another program trying to connect to the internet and it's not trusted. I'll block that attempt. Let's keep going here. A new infrequently seen program. This file is trying to modify system registry boot up data, boot up area. We will block that. System is beginning to lock up and become unresponsive. Now we're going to keep going here. We can see that Komodo doesn't even recognize a lot of these as being malware either. All right, so even at this point, we're just receiving Windows firewall alerts. We can see Webroot has caught another executable. It's just trying to connect to the internet. Oh, shoot, I meant to block that threat, but regardless, it's okay. We're gonna allow the firewall access. Yeah, I did not mean to allow this one executable to connect to the internet. That was my mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a quick scan with Malwarebytes to see what's on the system, and I'll be right back. Hello everybody, I'm back. Webroot did not find any threats, even though it says there's one active thread. Not sure that means it's monitoring one thread or it wants me to restart the computer. We will do both regardless after I'm done this review. Malwarebytes found several items here. We found a Trojan in app data roaming. A couple things in app data roaming. We have this DLL host. It looks like it's been modified by malware. It's labeled by Malwarebytes as malware trace. We have something Trojan agent. I don't even know what that is. Couple registry values. And if we look at him in Pro, not sure what's going on with this folder options. It appears that this policy removes the folder options menu from the extras menu, so it appears something has been modified to the system. File does not exist and may cause an error message during startup. We have a Trojan app data labeled by Bitdefender as a Trojan agent. Something labeled by Trojan Win32 by Kaspersky. Another thing by Kaspersky. None of these are temp files, by the way, except for this one right up here. Again, the DLL host, it's detected by Hitman Pro, its behavior analysis as a Win32 backdoor, and Bitdefender detects it as a generic variant. And we also have the ask.com toolbar, and it appears we have something else that is suspicious in app data. I do remember, I'm not sure if this is actually malicious because this name sounds very familiar, CSRSS. I'm 99% sure that CSRSS is a legitimate process in the Windows operating system. However, that does not mean that malicious code might not have been injected into this process during this review. So overall, I'm not going to actually remove any infections or Malwarebytes or Hitman Pro. This is when the focus of my test comes into play. Because now it is up to Webroot to detect all of the files that have made it past and determine them to be malicious. I understand that it can take days, weeks, months, maybe even years before malware is detected and analyzed and stored into Webroot's database. I mean, sure, even some malware, if it's not widespread enough, won't even be added to their database. However, Let's say this is a productive computer at some office or place of business, and they need to have their computer operating properly. And with the malware that's currently on the computer, is impossible to do that. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to come back and do a part 2, part 3. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to keep this going for. I'll see how the community feels about these videos. Maybe I'll do 4 or 5 parts. It really depends. However, I'm going to try and do a review every single day, see what new threats have been detected by Webroot, and just overall see how long it takes to remove unrecognized files that Webroot should automatically, as they claim, be remedied once they receive word that it is a malicious file. So I'm interested to see that. I am going to restart the computer. There's no point in showing that in this video, but I am going to restart the computer, and I plan on coming back probably about tomorrow, and I'm just going to do a brief update video. There's just showing the process. If it actually does remove the malware infections, I am highly interested to see if it'll remedy the issues that were found in Hitman Pro about the folder options, and I forget there's something else with startup entries, something like that. I want to see Webroot rectify those issues because it's supposed to roll back all the changes made by malicious programs. So I'm interested to see that. So I think that'll be about it for this review. Take from as you wish, and I will talk to you later. Bye.